Our roundtable with WPTV political analyst Brian Crowley. Brian, Laura Loomer, as I said going into the break, once a local congressional candidate, conspiracy theorist, 9/11 denier, side by side with former President Trump at 9/11 observances this past week. Take a listen.
The official drink of America first. To the hostile takeover of the Republican Party.
To the hostile takeover of the Republican Party. This, of course, file footage. Laura Loomer.
You know, she apparently couldn't get a job at McDonald's, so she's created this social media network that where she says crazy things. And
including 9/11 denial.
9/11 denial. She's a bit of a racist. A lot of mainstream Republicans are urging Donald Trump to stay away from her. They're condemning her.
Lindsey Graham, one of his chief supporters from South Carolina, saying just that.
It's very odd. You know, Donald Trump likes to surround himself with people that worship him, and that's fine. But it's very odd that he found any interest at all in this person.
I'm not sure mainstream Republican, we continually have to, some argue, redefine that. Somebody who has been considered to be on the extreme right of the Republican Party, MAGA part of the party, which is dominant now, Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia, even she is harshly criticizing Laura Loomer and worried about the damage it could do to the ticket and what happens in November. Let's listen to her.
I'm not involved in their conversations, so I can't weigh in on that. But I do know this, that her rhetoric and her tone does not match the base, does not match MAGA, does not match most Republicans I know. And I am completely denouncing it. I'm over it. And I would encourage anyone else that matches her statements to stop.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has been denounced many times for statements she's made. She's now denouncing Laura Loomer. So are other formerly mainstream Republicans like Lindsey Graham. Unravel all this for us, Brian.
Well, you know, I wonder, is she really condemning Laura Loomer because of the things she said, or because she's getting more spotlight than Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting these days? And, you know, anybody who manages to get in front of Donald Trump and be a part of his inner circle, you know, the people that are struggling to get in there tend to be a little jealous about it. Look, there's a lot of crazy going on in this country. You know, ultimately, it's not about Laura Loomer or people on the far left that act nuts. It's about the people who listen to them, and why? Why are you listening to people like this? Why are you encouraging people like this? There's a lot of responsible people out there who look at issues, study them, try to come up with solutions. A lot of them are elected officials. Why in the world are you listening to people like this?
Anti-Semitic rants, 9/11 denial, on and on. But where are the advisors for the former president in a race, even after the debate and all that's been said about that in the last few days and will continue to be said, a race that is still considered razor close in battleground states? And when Republicans are saying that in a race that close, this is the kind of thing that could really turn people off, who's the advisor who steps up and says,
well, he's got some very good advisors around him, Susie Wiles being one of the leading ones.
Top advisor here in Florida for many years.
And, you know, when he was listening to her and the other top people around him and moving forward with the campaign early, everything seemed to make a little bit of sense. Ever since Kamala Harris wound up being on his opponent, he seems to be rattled. But there's also, I don't quite understand what's going on with his judgment. A year ago, 4 years ago, when he was president, he wouldn't have had Laura Loomer around him. He's putting very odd people around him now. He's brought back some people who, you know, are not, you know, Corey Lewandowski, you know, who was on the outs and, you know, did have some questionable things in his background. Something's going on with Donald Trump right now that I don't quite understand.
Turn to another topic now, Amendment 4. The long knives are out in terms of big fights and debates, political chicanery, many argue going on here. The governor's being called out. Amendment 4 supporters have been called out by the governor. Nasty stuff right now.
Well, you know, I wish it wasn't so nasty, as you put it. I wish that there could be honest debate about the issues. You know, you try to win people over to your side in the debate, and then move forward with seeing whether or not you can get 60% of the vote to either pass the amendment or get 41% of the vote to prevent the amendment. Unfortunately, you know, the way we are in this state and too much of the country is there's too much, everything is friction, everything is a fight, and in negative ways.
And there's a fight about whether some votes should be tossed out, and the argument was those that might have been considered fraudulent already had been, and they're trying to double count votes, and some argue it's an effort by Republicans and the governor, you know, to derail this before it makes it to voters. And on the flip side, there's been critiques from the beginning about whether Amendment 4 goes too far. Again, how do our viewers, whatever side of the issue they're on, in today's world, how do you get a compass bearing on anything?
Well, you know, one of the things you need is you need leadership that guides you in a way that's acceptable behavior. You know, Ron DeSantis tends to want to twist the rules, bend the rules, you know, do things any way he wants. So we wind up taking, you know, a health agency and turning its website into an anti-Amendment 4 website. Why are we using a health agency, a state health agency for that? It shouldn't be involved in politics, but he does that, and then the Democrats have to counteract, and it just gets crazy. Politico,
and I have to have you have a brief comment here. DeSantis headline, push for post-tenure review of Florida professors. First results are in. The ongoing debate about politics and the intersection and influence of politics on academics. Of course, conservatives argue, wait a minute, liberals have been influencing academics for years, so don't get all tied up in knots when we are.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I've never been a big fan of tenure. I think it's often abused. But yeah, liberals have managed to get the professors and the leaders that they wanted in the university system, and now Republicans are doing the same thing.
So hardball politics in Florida, all the way up to the university level. Brian, we'll have some closing thoughts for you. It's going to be an interesting next few months. Back in a moment.